Hello and welcome back to Lore Hammer Battery Bust Episode 3. Hey, I'm your host, Mark, and what are we up to on this episode? We got drumroll Christian, the man, the myth, the legend. Welcome.
Hey, I'm here to bust your batteries with you. I love busting We're gonna bust your batteries so hard.
Oh, there's gonna be a spray of acid all over the place, and gosh darn, you want it on your face. I can tell you that much. Yeah, well, we got a fun episode. Yeah, this is what happens when we don't stick to the notes. In this episode, there are no notes really. Me and Christian are just hanging out. Me and Christians have been homies for a long time, and I have some very deep, meaningful questions I want to ask him. Like, when was the first time he knew that he was in love with an Astartes? You know, like, was it on sight? Was it reading about them? You know, we'll find out these kind of questions, but. Before we get there, we'll just have some housekeeping. Just me and Christian tonight. Gonna be just me and him. Maybe some call-ins.
Maybe. If your battery holds out.
Yeah, if my battery holds out. Yeah, that's, I guess, maybe the thing about these episodes. You know, I've said in the other two, my solar system, the batteries are not working. So much like your cell phone, when it reaches the end of its life and it's just like it only holds a charge for like 10 minutes. That's what my system is right now. So we're recording, and at any moment my solar system could kick off the Starlink, and then my batteries will be dead and I will go to sleep.
Be plunged into darkness.
Yeah. You know, it's actually been kind of nice, honestly. Like, they go out around like 9 o'clock. And then it's just complete black, man. Like, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. So there's no light pollution, no noise pollution. Like, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I believe it. It also shows the unreliability of a totally solar system.
Yeah. I have been here for 3 years, and, you know, the batteries are now like 5 years old. So you get to 5 years out of it before you have any issues, which is pretty good.
And getting sprayed with that ocean water, I'm sure that doesn't do it any favors.
Yeah, no. And other things that I spray on it since
I'm on the batteries.
Yeah,
you should probably stop doing that.
No, I've been certified to do whatever I want with electricity.
Grimaldus in the chat says, "Can we get Mark on a treadmill and hook him up to the grid?" I think that's a fantastic idea. He'll just be out of breath, so. Like huffing and puffing on the podcast.
Yeah. No, I like that. That would be perfect. As long as I can run, I'll keep recording. That truly is the hooking Mark up to the servitor machine joke to Lorehammer. Yeah.
He's truly become one with the podcast.
Yeah. People are chanting in the chant, the Gregorian chanting. That's nice. I like that. Yeah, so let's do some quick housekeeping before we really get into this episode. Liber Malleus, we are selling off the Loyalist side now. You can buy Honor Guard. Do you want to be in Trevor Buzak's Honor Guard? I think there is the Chapter Champion and 4 champions that we are bidding off. And what that means is you get to name the model, you get to pick its war gear, you get to write lore on it, 1,000 words, and yeah, you become part of the chapter. It's pretty cool. Lots of people are up to it.
Forever immortalized in plastic.
Yeah, man, I have made the first order. I've ordered all the Chaos Infantry, so there's like fucking 35 Terminators in there. Hyped.
Did they arrive yet, or are they still in transit?
Yeah, in transit. It might be a minute, but when they get here...
Yeah, I was going to ask you to show them off on camera here, but...
Yeah, no, not yet. I can show you other things, just like body parts and stuff. Like,
those are cool. I like those.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
All right. If you also want to join in and see things, you can join the Imperial Tide and support the show. Ad-free version, only $2.50. Video version for $5. And yeah, you can watch us look at things and see us do things with video access.
Yes, I like it. The last episode, I was just painting in MS Paint and talking about it. So sometimes the video comes in handy. This one, you're good to go. No need to subscribe to the Patreon on this episode, unless you want to call in, which we probably will have someone call in to help bust the battery. And only live stream people can do that. So come join the Patreon.
You know what? Also join the Patreon to help Mark buy batteries, because clearly he needs them. Or just send him a ton of AAAs and see if he can't rig something together.
Yeah, exactly. That would be a very interesting question. You know, right now my system is, I know some people in the Discord have been asking me, it's 16 like super heavy car batteries essentially, and it's hooked up to a bunch of panels. So yeah, how many double A's, triple A's would I have to do to replace 16 car batteries worth? Mucho.
And mucho dinero.
Yeah. I have ordered stuff and they're on the way, but I live in the middle of buttfuck nowhere, so it takes a minute.
Everything takes time.
Yeah, much like the Liber Malleus, still in transit.
All right.
One more thing on the battery bust, man. We've been good. I've done 2 episodes and it hasn't busted. So let's see what happens tonight. It's a 2 win, 0 loss for the solar system so far. All right, Christian, you're a father, aren't you?
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Still worked out in court.
Apparently, yes. Okay, yeah.
The paternity tests are still coming.
Yeah. No, that's fine. We don't want to put you into a fickle legal position. Apparently, if you did have children, you would have helped me with the Dad Hammer episodes and had a great time, right? They're pretty fun.
Again, allegedly, yes. My lawyers advised me to say that.
Yeah. Now, there are children. It's just if you are actually the father of these children.
That's
so
the
there
thing,
are
that's
children.
the
Yeah. But the children that exist, did they like Dad Hammer?
I need to consult with my legal before I answer that question.
Yes. Okay, I see where this is going. Well, I'm making more Dad Hammer episodes. One of these Battery Best episodes, I'm just going to do an interlude episode between like season 1 and season 2. And I need you to read me a line now so I can splice it in later and we don't have to meet up just for one line. So put on your best scribe Christoph voice for me and read the line.
It's been a while since I put on the voice. Let's see if I can trudge it up from the bowels of my memories. We may not always know what the future holds, Marcus.
Nope, that's not it. I can tell you that already.
Okay.
No, let me give you the voice you told me. It was if our friend Paul was really old and like wise.
No, it was Paul mimicking something else.
Oh.
I'm mimicking someone mimicking something else. But I can't. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to an episode if you want a clean take of this, but I'll give it another shot.
Give it another shot.
We may not always know what the future holds, Marcus, but our past experience shows we can handle it. No, that's not it.
That'll work, this is just for stupid kids, so like, are they really gonna be? Yeah,
they don't know consistency.
No, exactly.
Just shuffle all the characters around, and no one would even know. I'll be voicing you. You voice me.
Writing another one has been kind of fun. It's very different writing 40K kid stuff, and like trying to specifically like include a lesson in it almost.
A lesson is life is suffering and pain is always there for you. Those are the lessons of 40K.
Yeah, honestly, and that's like, how do you tell a kid that? Well, first you have to break part of their body. Like you break a finger, then you tell them that, or like what? I don't know.
That's why I'm in court, man.
People in the Discord today were chatting about how many toddlers it would take to beat up a Primarch, much like that man versus gorilla debate. Yeah, this is like infants versus Primarch. Toddlers, infants would be infinite. Infinite infants would be killed.
It would just have to be the crushing weight of all the bodies to do any kind of effect.
Yeah,
that's terrific. All right,
that is.
New topic.
Grimaldus wants to send me a 9-volt and 3 AA's. And he says if we all do that, if everyone sends me, instead of $1 on Patreon, everyone just sends me 1 AA battery.
That would be so horrible. What do you even do with these?
Oh, man.
Send Mark the $1.
Yeah.
He could use it more than the battery.
Oh, man, it's tough now. Don't send me money, honestly. If you send me money, I'm just going to be spending it on Liber Malleus stuff. I've ripped off that like plastic crack band-aid again. I'm like Jones and
fully back in it.
Yeah. Look at my hair even. It's outlandish. I'm getting Fuck. You do you hobby still quite a bit? Or
off and on. Yeah, I go through like windows of like I'll get really inspired for a minute. I really got to paint again though. Painting. And you know what? I'm not one of those guys that doesn't paint because I don't enjoy it. I love painting. I honestly find it super relaxing. But I don't do it. I'm too lazy. I like building. And I like building. Yeah. I like consistency and stuff. And I want it to be good. I don't like picking up and dropping a paintbrush as often as you can a hobby knife. So it's
Yeah,
either
like you have to wet it and like, there's tear down and set up, I get it.
exactly. Yeah. So I really should focus on the painting more, but I have been building lots.
It's a meme that you're painting when you look around and underneath, specifically those like Thunder Warriors that you made. There's
Yeah.
gray plastic.
Yeah.
So you
Okay.
you only paint line of sight is what the meme
exactly.
is.
Yes, I only paint what you can see. And why wouldn't you? Why would you paint something you can't? That's like painting the interior of a rhino and then gluing it shut.
No,
It doesn't make any sense. You're not supposed to look at the
yeah.
model from underneath.
Well, when you wreck the model on tabletop and explode it, you better be wrecking the
Flip it
model.
upside down. Yeah.
That's what true
Throwing it
supporters of
against the wall.
GW plastic do.
Buy a new rhino every time you lose one in a game.
Yeah.
That's the perfect business model. You actually break. Actually, you know what? On that note, there's an interesting game that came out a little while ago where you have these little, you use Play-Doh essentially, and you have these little like tomes. You're like a wizard and you're casting monsters, and you mold little guys, like little monsters and things with these little tome molds, and then you play with them, and they have like little weapons you can put in their hand, like plastic weapons you put in them because they're Play-Doh, right?
Yeah.
And then when you kill them, you just mash them. And yeah, it's cool conceptually.
Does your kids that you may or may not be attached to have these?
No, I didn't pull the trigger on it, but it would be they're cool. Still even too young for that. But like there's a whole rule set with it and everything. So like conceptually they're really cool. Obviously the quality of your mold isn't going to be like 40K level just because it's Play-Doh Play-Doh molds. But
yeah, if you're looking for quality, we do recommend a 3D printer over
Play-Doh. Specifically. Yeah.
Whatever.
But yeah, specifically, like, did you want to know what I've been working on like most recently, or?
Yeah, I know we're gonna go through some stuff in this episode. We're gonna go through some text messages between me and you, and I think we're come across some of the stuff you're working on.
Yeah, but there's also lots I don't tell you about.
That's good. Okay, yeah. So try to tell me about something that we won't peruse later. Potentially. Yeah.
Did I mention my Phobos army?
No, tell me more.
Okay. Yeah.
now we're talking.
Yeah. So it is part of a bigger chapter project that I'm working on, a Primaris chapter, which we will touch on later. But this is just the Phobos. I've put all the Phobos Marines in one company. I don't know if Primaris chapter organization is still very weird to me. I don't totally understand it. So I don't know that if Phobos is supposed to be its own company, but it is for me because I said so.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've just been putting together a mix of different Phobos units. But as always, I like to put my own spin on things. So instead of like the standard, first of all, no skull face helmets. So any of the Reavers are all going to have the same, I forget what they're called, but with the antenna attachment, Phobos helmets. They're all going to have a consistent helmet style.
And none of the skulls then. None of the
no skull faces. That's reserved only for chaplains.
Yeah. Good man.
Yeah. So that's the first major change. I'll have one. They're not jump packs, but they have those like they're almost like paratroopers.
Yeah,
they're the Reavers, but they have like the veins on the back that like control their descent.
Inceptors, possibly.
Man, Primaris, they suck on so many levels. Naming conventions, helmets are wrong. But anyways, yeah, those guys, they're like a Reaver alternative. They're still Reavers, I think. They just have the war gears called something. And then I got the regular Phobos squads. I think they're with the antenna, the backpacks. Man, I sound like I don't know 40K by the way I'm describing this stuff, but with again like Primaris Marines, I cannot be bothered to learn their unit names.
Man, they're so bad. This kind of came to me even just when we were talking about the difference between Primaris and Firstborn, where the codex of the Primaris Marines is very fluid. Like, you can jump between armor classes, you can jump between things. There's no structure to it, like where you first start as the tactical Marine or the Devastator, and you work your way up. It's very fluid. You can kind of jump. Where when you go into the Firstborn, it's very rigid. And, even in universe, that's kind of interesting. Just, how the codex progresses, because that's always been the Ultramarines' flaw, was it's too strict, too structured, first this, then that, and now it's kind of, Gilman's
Free for
opened it
all.
up. Now, I'm a bigot, so I like the rigidity of it. I don't like those Xenotes and mutants. By bigotry, I mean, so.
Yeah, you like very clear, hard lines. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and I do too for like a chapter. Like I want to know kind of like what does the progression look like? Like you said, how do they work through the ranks? So I created it for my chapter the way that makes sense to me, but it's not fleshed out anywhere enough for me to follow anything. So, even if I'm wrong, I don't care.
Yeah.
But yeah, in any case, I got like maybe 40 of those guys going. So, in all the different kind of variants. But the one cool, unique thing I did with them is I've also given every squad a comms guy. Each squad is going to have a medic. The Helix, Helix Adept?
Adept, yeah.
And then they're all going to have a special weapon. But the special weapon is going to be the classic Marine version. So, for example, they've come out with new flamers, new melty units,
plasmas.
Yeah, new plasma. And I always like the old stuff still exists in universe, and it's kind of silly that like they just gave it all away or threw it all away. Like where did it go?
Yeah.
So I've used those weapons with these Phobos units. So I've attached like the classic plasma gun, the classic melta gun, the classic flamer on Phobos guys.
A little more compact, a little more if you're going stealth operations or maneuverable. Sure.
Exactly. And they're using bolt carbines too, which are, the more compact version of the bolt rifle. So I figured thematically it makes sense that they're all rocking similar gear. And then the other interesting thing I did as a special weapon, I also took a bolt rifle with the big drum magazine, and I'm using it as like a LMG in the squad. So one guy will carry that as a special
like
weapon.
A non-military guy. Can you kind of maybe define that?
Like a light machine gun.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just like he's a fire support guy. Yeah.
This is kind of like a common theme in most of your Space Marine chapters, or when you've done Imperial Guard regiments, where your squads, you really break them down into, like, I'm assuming tied closely to your experience in, military affairs, where, you add all these specialist ranks where you're adding the medic, you're adding the comms guy, a light machine gun, a special weapon guy, a sergeant. Do you have a corporal? Because often we get like the Space Marine squads where you break them down into 2 5-man. So you got the sergeant lead one. And then who would you lead the other one?
I haven't given them a rank, but I usually have like a 2 IC, I'll call it, or second in command.
In real military or Canadian military ranks, is there one under sergeant?
Yeah, you have a master corporal, and then you have corporals and privates. So typically your master corporal will be your kind of 2 IC.
Okay, cool. So that works. I like corporal just because it's a little shorter, but
Yeah, and like in the Marines, they have a lance corporal, which is like I believe below a corporal. So like they have a different variation of how that works. So you can kind of pick and choose. And like, do you picture a Marine with the rank of corporal or something more archaic or like knightly too? Because Marine ranks can go in 2 directions, right? Like they don't have
squad
Marine
champion
privates.
or
that's maybe a little. Squad champion maybe is too high a rank, but something between sergeant and like a private, which I don't think technically battle brother is the rank, but you kind of default to battle brother as being the basic Marine rank. But like what would be a step between battle brother and sergeant? I don't know. Like I said, in all my charts I usually just write 2 IC.
Yeah. Okay. But, that's one thing that I've always kind of liked about it, though. You do that like squad breakdown. It's fun.
Yeah.
For Space Marines, like it's one of those oversights almost, or just kind of things they didn't want to do. Is the way Space Marines operate, man. You almost need an apothecary in every squad. You need somebody who can take that gene seed if an Astartes dies. And squads often aren't going out in mass wars. Like, they are. That does happen, but the army's kind of, you don't need a whole lot of Space Marines to do a bunch of damage.
Yeah, I even like to think kind of how they're depicted in the game Space Marine, at least in the first one. Like they just sent 3 Marines to do some work on a whole planet, right? Like I think 9 times out of 10, that's what Marines are doing. And then the odd time where there's a major threat, they kind of bring together the whole squad or the whole chapter, depending, like, as you scale up in the threat levels.
Yeah. So I, there has to be that like in between rank of apothecary where in every squad they have somebody who's qualified to take that gene seed out at the very least,
Yeah.
Um,
I really love the addition of the Helix Adept. I think that was
yeah.
really cool, but it is only restricted to Phobos guys. So
Yeah. We've always liked the white scars too because of their genetic purity and adding that apothecary to the squads. I know we've built some hypothetical lists way back that would never have gone anywhere, but were fun regardless with that kind of concept.
yeah, just paper. What do I call it when you build it on paper?
Theory, build, lifts, I don't fucking know.
Something paper. Whatever.
Yeah. We're in the
Theoretic
digital
army,
age
whatever.
now.
Yeah.
I hear people are using chatbots to build their army lists. I'm like, you guys don't even know the true joys of living if you haven't spent a full 8-hour workday on the porta potty list building. You're missing out.
Your boss is looking for you.
Yeah, man. Not good. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
but
hiding from people in Panama, essentially, is what happened. Whatever.
you're on the run. The other big thing that I've also been working on besides that is actually a really cool project I do want to actually do when I have more models ready to go and even like maybe show on here is civilians, 40K civilians.
Yeah. You have even started writing episode notes I've seen, but
yeah, man, I don't know if there's enough content to cover it for a whole hour just because there's not a lot of info there, and that's the part that gets me is I'm very interested in, and it would look different. It's almost like Imperial Guard. Like, what is a standard Imperial Guard? Well, it's hard to say.
I wonder, if you broke it down into like there's citizens, there's like non-citizens, there's merchants, you could break it down a couple ways maybe and fill out an episode, but
yeah, like how much of that would I be making up though, because the canon sources aren't there.
Yeah.
But it's an aspect, like you're always fighting in these bombed out ruins and stuff. And someone used to live there. Someone used to work there. What is the day-to-day look like?
Yourself thinking, who lived here? Whose bed was that?
Yeah, it's kicked over now, being cover for your Space Marine. Yeah, so I'm building a bunch of like 40K civilian models. So maybe I'll save those details for that civilian episode. But it's a concept I like exploring.
Yeah. It's just so much more to 40K than the bolters and stuff. So looking at those little manufactorum workers and cool. We'll save it. Okay, well, I got a question for you. What is your first memory of 40K? Like you and me have been in a long time, my friend. Do you have like a very first memory?
40K specifically was definitely at our mutual friend's house. They had a 3rd edition main rulebook.
Ooh, yeah.
And it's
the one.
Yeah, it came with the Black Templar versus Dark Eldar box set, I believe. I'm looking that up right now just to fact check myself. But yeah, with the Black Templars on the cover. That was like my first 40K. Like, what is that? Like that sick image of all the Marines. Like they also have the Crimson Fist version of it too, where it's always like that last stand where they're all kind of in a pile, a body pile shooting at all their enemies.
Yeah, no, it's the way to live as a Space Marine.
It's the way to die for sure.
No, that's living, my friend. Yeah.
But yeah, that's my first book that I had ever opened or looked into really.
Did it do something more to you? You think growing up in like a religious household, seeing that Black Templar, there's that religious kind of aspect, grim darkified. Do you think it meant more to you?
No. If anything, it had the opposite effect. Like, don't get into that stuff. But yeah, I can't say that I was particularly drawn specifically because of the knight aspect. Like all of it is cool, and I'm kind of a big history nerd too, so that's probably more the angle I would have found meaning in. Like, oh yeah, it's like Crusaders with guns, right? Like not for the religious aspect, but for like the historical interest. But actually, my first Games Workshop experience is actually with fantasy. Like the first thing that brought me into the Games Workshop was Lord of the Rings miniatures, but the first like anything GW related was a Games Workshop that used to be in a mall that's long since been closed, and they had a cutout of a Landschneck. I forget. I don't know fantasy that well, but the Empire, human Empire from Warhammer Fantasy. You know the Landschneck looking guys with like the big two-handed swords and like the colorful
helmet
clothes.
feathers and
Yeah. They had like a cutout Sandy of that guy standing in front of their door, and that image always caught my eye, and I was like, oh, I wonder what that store's about.
Caught your eye, eh?
Yeah.
What are you saying? You fancy him? You fancied his attire?
No,
and kind of
no.
to you and
He was
you
calling
like
me
how
into the
big
store.
and phallic
Girthy
his sword
blade
was?
with. Yes.
Yeah, me too, buddy. Me too. No, it is kind of funny how similar our hobby story is. Obviously, like, you know, we pretty much almost had the same one. Yeah, we got into it and then we seen Lord of the Rings, did some Lord of the Rings. Like, yeah, the very first memory I have of you is in a Games Workshop. And, you know, I was probably 13 and you would have been like 9 or 10 type thing. We were young bucks. Yeah. And you and your brother, I was playing against your brother and I kind of just seen you out of the corner of my eye and that was it. But I knew I didn't like you then.
And you still don't. Yeah.
Still don't.
Yeah, I actually remember that day too, that you were playing my brother, and I was just kind of browsing around looking at all the different products that I would never be able to afford as a 9-year-old boy.
Where the fuck am I gonna find $12 for a blister?
Yeah. Man, it's so wild how the prices have changed, I will say. Yeah. Like back then it was expensive for like a child. And now it's like expensive for a full-blown adult with a full income. Like,
yeah, I'm still saying the goddamn same thing. Fuck, that's expensive. Where am I gonna get $12?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yikes. Did you ever play Lord of the Rings? Like, I know you're not really like a tabletopper, but were you ever into the Lord of the Rings one?
I played a couple games with that mutual friend of ours.
Yeah.
I don't know that they were playing with the right rules, though. I always trusted him to know the rules. And it always seemed to go their way. So I'm not confident.
I have played with them before.
Yeah, and I imagine you have the same thoughts. Yeah. Somehow the game just always was to their advantage for some reason. Yeah. So
no harm, no foul. You know, we were all very young and just like who could read a 300-page rule book and like
and like I wasn't gonna put the effort in, so you know that's my bad. I'm just gonna trust someone else to do it, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I've been accused of mark rules, which is essentially the same thing. It's like, we could look it up or you can just take my word for it. And they're like, are you sure I have to give you my money as well? Where does it say that? Like,
where does it say? It's in the rule book, man. Read it.
You roll a 1, you give me a toonie.
Yeah, there you go. That's why it's such an expensive hobby.
Yeah, man. So you did the Lord of the Rings. I
still do the Lord of the Rings, by the way.
Yeah, man. We've talked about fiefdoms many times.
Yeah. It's, I bought those Gileath box set that came back when they kind of re-released Middle-earth. Cool. And so that's it's got to be built. You know, something I regret is I sold off my whole Lord of the Rings collection before. So now I'm kind of like starting again. And I have a few models now, but I had a lot before that I gave up a long time ago, and I kind of regret that.
Yeah, like those models were just like so iconic because you would see them and then you'd instantly flash to that exact scene in the movie of that pose. You know, I always think of the Aragorn at Helm's Deep running sword up into the pike pit. Like,
yeah. So one of my favorite models too.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So they had so many different, of every character, every different poses of every character type thing. Yeah. So to lose some of those older prints is a bummer.
Yeah, so I'm slowly rebuilding that collection. But
we joke about growing up and being like, how the fuck do you afford Warhammer? Was there one Lord of the Rings army where you're like, if I had money, I would do this, 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 and this? And now as an adult, you've kind of done a little bit of?
For Lord of the Rings specifically or Warhammer generally?
Let's do Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
Because then you would be like truly a young boy, where it's like...
Yeah. Lord of the Rings specifically has never felt like compared to 40K that expensive, to be honest. So I don't know that there's anything that's like ever been out of reach for me for Lord of the Rings.
I suppose, yeah.
Like there's no there's no Titans. There's a Mama Kill is the biggest kind of most expensive model you can get. You know what though? Actually, some of the terrain pieces, not the
Ooh,
models,
oh
but the
yeah.
terrain, I would actually love to have been able to buy. And they were pretty expensive for what you get. Like realistically, the dollar to actual model price isn't really there. But they used to sell the Helm's Deep Gate and the Minas Tirith Gate.
Yeah, the Minas Tirith one was sweet,
Yeah.
man.
And I even saw it not that long, like maybe 5 years ago. And I saw it for sale and at another gaming place. They've been long since out of production through GW. And
Yeah.
like I think it was $400 or $500. And I'm literally standing there like debating, like for what you get though, like it's just like
it's out
2
of print.
towers and a gate. Right, exactly. That's what the debate I kept having going back and forth. I was like,
Oh my
yes,
god.
it's expensive, but like what do I really get out of it? Where am I gonna put it? Yeah, so like
In your bed next to you, Christian,
I'm
at
gonna sleep
night.
with it every day. Yeah. Yeah, so and obviously
Yeah,
again
okay.
they're out of production and the Helm's Deep gates are like I've never seen since almost when they first came out. I think you can still find them on eBay, but yeah, they're like for what you get for $500, even for 40K models, you could get quite a bit for $500. Is it worth it? I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, jeez, yeah. And with 3D printing, man, now like you can get those types of pieces that are just like the
Fraction of the
exact
price.
fucking same in a fraction. So yeah.
Yeah, or bigger and better. Like you could get instead of just a gate and 2 walls, you could get the whole freaking thing. Like
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
get crazy.
exactly.
You
You
can get
could
crazy
build
with it.
Minas Tirith.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I feel like we've always we've had a very similar path of hobbying, and that's because like we've just done it together essentially. I remember us both looking through that third edition codex and becoming friends over it essentially. Whoa, look at these things. Whoa, what do you think of
Yeah.
this? And growing over the year. We've kind of gone from location to location, and each location has kind of brought its own memories, I feel like. We started out in my parents' basement and I would go into town to pick you up. I lived like 15 minutes out of town. We'd go into town, pick up pizza, and then drive back out and hobby and watch South Park together.
Yeah.
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 What do you remember what you would be working on back in the day? What would you kind of always gravitate towards building?
I was back then working on well, back then Primaris hadn't come out yet, so it was like a classic Marine Army, which is really just regular Space Marines.
Always Marines. You open up this closet in Christian's house, Marine boxes.
Yeah. Okay, you know what though? I know 40K gets a lot of flack for being so Marine heavy, but I do like them and they are cool. Like you can't debate them.
And if you try to fight that, they'll kill you. The Marines will crush you.
Yeah, exactly. No, I've always been drawn to that faction in any sci-fi setting. Like I've always been into super soldiers as just like a thematic thing. Like I love the clone troopers in Star Wars. I love, Master Chief in the Spartan program. Like super soldiers were always, even before 40K, I loved super soldiers as a concept. So obviously Space Marines were always going to be the thing for me.
Yeah, I feel like every time I look over, it's either Space Marines or Guard. Very rarely have I looked over to what you're working at, and it's like an Eldar or a Tau. Maybe orcs. Orcs happen. I do see a little bit of orc in you.
I do have a lot of orcs, actually. I don't know how it happened, but they somehow spawned in my basement, and
you get one, and it's a problem, and then next thing you look, there's more.
It's an infestation. Yeah. So I do have a massive orc army that's like at various stages of completion, but I haven't touched those guys in years.
Purge is asking, what about the Marines from Aliens? Do you like them too?
I actually like the Predators out of the Alien franchise, but again, they are the super soldier of that fiction, right? Like one Yocha is better than any human or alien.
Yocha, hey? Yeah. One Yocha.
It's funny too because my older brother's always been the bug guy. Like he's always been the Tyranids, the Zerg. Like the alien, the Xenomorph. Like he's that faction. I'm always like the Space Marine human super soldier faction. So
that's interesting. I wonder if you guys kind of just naturally paired off that way. He chose one and then you chose the other because it was what's left. But
I don't know. The thing is, like, I've never really gravitated to the bug factions of any universe.
Yeah. But like aliens in general, it seems like what about Protoss? Maybe you like them.
I like the Protoss, but
Okay.
I love a Terran Marine too, right?
Yeah. You love a good
good suit of
power
power
armored
Marine.
man.
Yeah. But again, Protoss are kind of like the super soldiers of their thing. Like one Protoss could annihilate a Marine or a Zerg, like 1-to-1 base level, right? Like,
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, if you never went down the dark path of 40K, what franchise do you think would have sucked you up if not 40K? Essentially.
Well, I'm pretty heavily involved in Star Wars, obviously. Our own Star Wars podcast and stuff. That was the thing. Like that's the thing that brought me close with my other friends before 40K existed was Star Wars.
Sure.
So yeah, I don't feel like I'm living an alternate lifestyle because that's maybe a quick way to put it.
Yeah. Some
I'm
people
living
look back
both
on their
ends.
life and they're like, I shouldn't have left my first wife. Now I'm with fucking this, whatever. Yeah. You're like, man,
I can have them all. I can do everything.
I can do it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cool thing with Star Wars specifically, though, is there's so many ways to enjoy that hobby. Like, they got video games, books, comic books. For me, it was comic books. But just recently, like in the last 4 or 5 years, they did come up with their own tabletop game, similar to 40K, like army based. They used to have other tabletop miniature based games, but one that's more like a tactical battle to battle called Star Wars Legion. So I got into that right away. So I have a bunch of that stuff on my hobby table too.
I think I've mentioned on the show before how cool you're like briefly kind of mentioned you got clone troopers with catechin arms on them. So you kind of got these armored down clone troopers that are pretty cool.
Yeah, they're and again, same thing with like 40K where I'm kind of building my own clone trooper army that has a little more character that I put into it. So it's like my own subgroup of clone troopers, and that's part of it is they're a bunch like they're kind of more berserker like is the way I kind of designed them to be. So I honestly really heavily inspired by Khorne berserkers. You know how they have their arms stripped down, exposed. Same thing. That's kind of where the inspiration came from. So they got like big muscular arms. They're not all like that, but like different ones have like are missing one arm sleeve. The other ones might missing the other one. I put a lot of like melee weapons on them, like knives and stuff, so they can get dirty with droids.
Cool.
So, yeah.
It would be interesting to see the effect of 40K and conversions that you put into like those models as opposed to people who just do that and no 40K. Like I feel like 40K really wants you to make your own stuff, or at least used to, has had its ons and off. But like Star Wars Legion, you've been talking too about like adding pelts onto some of their clone troopers and just doing all types of just like squads of clone troopers. I just don't feel like I would see that normally from Legion players.
No, I think they typically stick with what the canon is, right? Like, let's paint what they look like on the box and like, single color palette and all that. And there's not a lot of. They want Anakin. They want Anakin's clone troopers. They want stuff that they've seen, but it isn't, and it's not like in any of their literature either to really inspire you to take your own spin on it. But Star Wars is definitely big enough to be able to do that. Like, think how many millions of clone troopers are out there. There's got to be a regiment that looks like X or Y, right? Like what you want to do with it.
There's no way they didn't just go kill a bunch of aliens and wear their flesh. There's no way that didn't happen at least once.
At least once, yeah.
At least once.
So. Definitely gonna get into doing more of that work and conversion work and customizing stuff, which is it comes from that 40K background. It's bleeding into my other hobbies.
You mentioned kind of briefly you do Star Lores as well, which is a Star Wars lore podcast. What do you like about podcasting? Because you do quite a bit, you have for many years. What's kind of the appeal to you?
I like to talk, man. I like to talk about fictional stuff. I like to deep dive into, like, I'll get hyper fixated on stuff, and like that's all I'll consume for like weeks at a time, and I want to talk about it. Like,
do you like feel like you're like trying to like get life lessons out of it? You're just doing it for consumption's sake, or like what do you like? Like, I feel like as I get older, I definitely notice more that I consume for some type of like moral value or something almost,
I can't.
Even if with like 40K, where it's like, well, maybe I shouldn't be a raging corn berserker, maybe.
No, I can't say that it's like driven by like a desire for any pursuit of knowledge or any. Well, that it's knowledge for its own sake. Like, if I
Yeah,
get
sure.
into a universe, like I want to know everything about it. Like, and that I'll pick up a new video game and then I'll like learn a character's name. I'm like, okay, I wonder what this whole universe sandbox I'm supposed to be playing is really about. And I'll get on the wikis and I'll start like just consuming everything. And like it'll go for like 2 to 3 solid weeks of like just that thing. But that's a cool thing about 40K is that it stood the test of time because there's always something for 40K to bring me back. A lot of universes are obviously a lot smaller, right? So you can consume everything there is like in a week, and that's it.
Yeah.
There's nothing else coming. So
it's crazy, man. Since we started up Lorehammer again, I know you haven't been on every episode, but you have been back since the start of the relaunch, and we're almost on episode 200, man.
Yeah,
Like,
and there's still so much more.
Yeah, we haven't even gone through half the Primarchs yet. I'm like, how do I even approach that topic of like 1,000 episode Primarch episodes? Like, what the fuck? I remember like calling you panicked a couple times. Like, Christian, what do I do? How do I format this? And you're like, calm down. Let's first of all talk about King's Landing and the Gold Trail and why the fuck you'd take a ship around when you take the King's.
That's Game of Thrones, yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Slowly, yeah. But here's the thing: you'll notice with all like my favorite franchises, there's always such a depth to the universe that, again, it goes back to that there's always something to consume. So you got 40K, obviously, which is huge. Star Wars is pretty massive. Lord of the Rings, massive fan. Lots of depth there, which is crazier because that's like more so one. Maybe if you want to consider Christopher Tolkien, then 2 guys, but really a lot of it is Tolkien Senior with that one.
Yeah.
And like I do quite enjoy Game of Thrones, which is what you were referencing there.
Would you would you ever collect any Game of Thrones models?
Yeah, I've been looking at it, man.
Oh,
Got a problem, man. I know. I want to kind of clear my desk of some other stuff first, but I've been eyeballing what's that battle game called?
Battle of Westeros, maybe?
Yeah. But they have their, when I say new miniatures game, it's also probably around 4 or 5 years old now, but it's relatively new. It's pretty popular, I hear. Lots of people are really into it, and all my games.
I'm pretty sure Court plays it.
Yeah.
Ice and Fire.
Armaldus does Ice and Fire. Yeah. But yeah, I look at the models from time to time. The one thing I don't like about my thing with 40K too is I'm not a tabletop player. I very much enjoy the models. I love miniatures. I love painting. I love modeling. And one of the things that doesn't appeal to me about that game in particular is the lack of variability in their models. You get like a box that has maybe 3 or 4 sculpts in it, and then it's just repeated a couple of times.
Sure, okay.
So that's one thing that kind of puts me off a bit.
It almost even goes back to that like 40K mindset of converting and making your own, where it's just like, whoa, okay, now I can't even do that to say lore accurate, and I only get 3 sculpts. Like, yikes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of one thing that stalled me on that. However, I've been thinking, man, again, Game of Thrones is kind of big enough that you could theoretically create like a minor house of your own with your own backstory and your own colors and everything. And I've been already looking at like, okay, I'd take this guy's head and this guy's arms and like mash them together to make my own kind of unique thing. So that's the thing that might finally draw me into it. So it's not off the table, that's for sure.
Nuke maybe just got here, but he's asking, so what's this episode about?
Everything.
Me and Christian, everything. We're just chilling, me and Christian. Essentially, my solar system is giving me the kaputs, and it could die out at any minute. So I didn't want to do a main episode with like whole notes and then have it die out, and we then have to like go back and jump in. So I figured we'll just shoot the shit, and when it cuts out, it cuts out, and
that'll be it.
That'll be
you
it.
All belong to me now.
Yeah, that was just
you and me.
Oh God, I didn't want this for you, my lore babies. I'm sorry. We're just hanging out. I do want to go through some of our text messages, which I think are pretty funny because just the amount of the levels of autism in these messages, you know.
It's definitely there.
It's just, yeah. Okay, I'm just scrolling up through our messages so I can get like
Wait,
really deep into it.
which messages are these? It shouldn't be that, that other chat. Don't
no, not
get that other.
no, not our signal chat. Our secure chat. No, this will be our WhatsApp messages. And I will edit some of these and I'll ask for commentary on others. Keep all private details. Let's do some clarification on some things, but let's start with this. Random message. This is probably my least favorite unit. Like, why do they even exist? Handheld heavy bolters? What the hell even is that? Aggressors with jump packs, then release regular jump pack guys. Like, why? Why are you so retarded, Primaris? And that's after we hadn't talked for like a couple of days.
That just came out of nowhere, eh?
Yeah, that one
just blindsided you.
Yeah, I think I wish we do who said this to who. Maybe that'd be a fun game that chat can play.
Yeah, that's talking about the Inceptors, I want to say. Yeah, why do they exist? I think that's a valid question. If you have the ability to miniaturize heavy bolters to be handheld, why does any other bolt gun exist? Like, it invalidates the existence of any other unit type. Why would you create a lesser version of something?
Yeah, like you go into the armory table and there's a bolt pistol and there's a heavy bolt pistol, and you're like, well, my cock's only 4 inches, so I guess I'll grab the bolt pistol.
Yeah.
Like, come on. We're all grabbing the big massive thing.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. If you could put all the firepower in a handheld state, why would you ever have anything else?
Though, like a lot of the primary stuff is like that, essentially, where it's like,
I know, and it bothers me. It shows a lack of creativity and a lack of like thinking about what they're doing. When they create something, they're like, oh, this looks cool, but they don't put any foresight into it.
Grimaldo says, I mean, the Storm Bolter is just a twin bolter. Yeah, but like taking a big weapon and compacting it, it's almost like, what, did you get a Jokero to help you in this production? I don't think so.
Yeah, and the other thing is like, again, okay, there could be trade-offs. So let's say a Storm Bolter is less. First of all, they don't have as many. At least that's how the old lore used to be, right? Like typically only even a captain or Terminator would rock a Storm Bolter. So first of all, like with 40K's rules, like production is always an issue, which with Primaris, that's not an issue at all, obviously. And then the other thing is like trade-offs being, okay, maybe it's less accurate. Sure, you can lay down volleys of gunfire, but maybe it's not as accurate. Versus like, this has all the penetrating power, all the stopping power, all the rate of fire of a heavy bolter. A heavy bolter. I'm like, it's not just a heavy bolter in a hand. Like, that's like your Desert Eagle being able to fire like an LMG. Like, why would you ever use anything else? And it had all the same accuracy and all this, right? It's not firing like a pistol. It doesn't suffer from any of the detriments of a pistol. It has all the pros of a machine gun, but none of the drawbacks of a pistol. Why would you ever use anything else ever?
I love that 2 months later, this still makes you fuming mad.
Yeah, honestly is one of the and the thing is, the problem is I have them. Like, I have to build these guys at some point, and I'm not happy about it. So every time I see them on the sprue, I'm like, I'm gonna have to get to you eventually, and that just irks me off all over again.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll jump to the next message. LOL, like Medusa of Cox.
I don't even know what that was.
Okay, I came across a cool Knights of Terra messages where basically we're coming up with a Space Marine chapter called the Knights of Terra. And it was a bunch of Space Marines potentially from different chapters who all kind of go on a crusade together. And what is that crusade about?
Yeah. Again, I don't know if we'll ever actually build this thing, but it's kind of one of those theoretical chapters. I'm thinking, and some of these ideas kind of I waffle back and forth on, but so I'll say them definitively, but I don't even know if they're quite definitive in my mind. But essentially, it's after the Great Rift, and they're crusading back to Terra.
Yeah.
So they're trying to cut through because like the Imperium Nihilus has gone dark, right? And they're like, okay, well, they don't know what happened. All of a sudden, like, is Terra destroyed? Is it gone? Are we gonna have to go
Yeah.
back and retake it? Like, what's going on? So they band together and they start marching back from the fringes of like the opposite side of the galaxy to crusade back to Terra.
Yeah, I like that. And it just like, the maybe it would be Lord Dante who kind of puts this kind of crusade petition forward where it's like, if every chapter lends 5 Astartes, we can do this. So, they pool together guys. Do they keep their heraldry? What do they end up looking like?
Yeah. So again, that's one of those things that I haven't totally fleshed out. And even the like head of this new front organization, like, were they the remnants of a chapter that's already kind of on the way out? Are they a full-fledged chapter that's just bringing other people into them? Do they require people who join their ranks to take on their heraldry? And for context, I picture their heraldry to be something like the Knights of Jerusalem. So like a blue gold, a lighter blue than like ultramarine, but very knightly aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like Black
Silver, like
aesthetic.
Yeah, like silver, lots of chainmail, but not chainmail, but chainmail silver with like blue robes and stuff. Very cool look, man. Maybe I'll pull it up because it's so
Yeah,
fun.
literally just look up like Knights of Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And then I even think about going as far as them adopting whatever straggling forces of the Imperium they can run across. So like on their way, if they run into an Imperial Guard regiment, that's also because everyone on this side of the galaxy, again, they're all cut off. They don't know what's going on. So they could be running into like a guard regiment that's totally lost, or a Sister of Battle convent, or a random Titan remnants of a Titan Legion or something. And I do wonder if they would adopt them into this crusade, and it would look something like the real Crusades when they started kind of putting together whatever random stragglers and creating a movement to like, we're getting back to Terra, we're on the way, like join us, and then
and that's where you could kind of get the different colors for sure, where if everyone is kind of still wearing their chapter's heraldry, you get that very cool look, where maybe they don't, maybe this would be the option. So they don't change their armor's heraldry. They kind of change their motif. Let's use that word. So like, if they were Space Wolves, they almost strip off their Space Wolf motif, keep their colors, and then put on like knightly robes almost, but it'll be Space Wolf colors and stuff, but it'll kind of turn more into like the Black Templar Dark Angels vibe, if that makes sense.
That's interesting. It would definitely be a good excuse to use, like, if you have a bunch of bits laying around.
And like, you wouldn't have to strip off every Space
like
Wolf bit or whatever. You could incorporate the nice mix, but the concept would be, instead of changing the colors, you just incorporate more knightly bits, which would be pretty cool.
It's almost like dials, and you're toning down the one dial and increasing the other dial, right? It's interesting. I think you might run into, like, if you ever actually built these and painted them up, you might run into like very contrasty hodgepodge looking tabletop forest, which it's never personally my favorite. It's nice to have like a through, like, nice color coordination through line. I do like the idea of people adopting the colors, like we're joining the crusade, or it could be like a Death Watch thing, but like reverse, where instead of going all black, like maybe they'll just adopt the badge on the shoulder and like they'll paint that shoulder, and then you could have whatever your old colors were on the rest of you or symbolism. Then, something in the middle there. Another inspiration too that I'm kind of toying with in my mind, and that kind of ties back to the origins of this crusade and the chapter master specifically. I always liked the character person of King Baldwin, I believe the fourth of Jerusalem, the Leper King. He's always had a really cool aesthetic, and the Knights of Lazarus were a cool knightly order who had leprosy, and so they were almost kind of like a shock troop. We're gonna die anyways, let's like actually go out fighting, kind of theme to them. So kind of to tie, obviously Space Marines can't contract, like, unless you're a Nurgle, can't contract diseases like that, but it'd be cool, like, spiritually, like if their chapter's broken, maybe they lost all their gene seed and apothecaries, they're just on their way out. Obviously you can tell this is all very heavily inspired by by
What is this? Yeah, Kingdom of Heaven. That's the movie's name. Yeah. Great
but King
movie.
Baldwin was real, and he was actually a really cool person.
And Jerusalem's really real too, right? We could go retake it right now, but no, we're lazy.
Yeah,
but we could.
Let's put this Knights of Terror together first. But yeah, like those knights there are the Knights of Jerusalem in the blue.
Yeah, such a cool look.
Yeah, and they were a real knightly order. Like you can look up actual art of them if you don't put movie in the search bar. You'll get some real images of them. But like I said, the Knights of Lazarus concept too, I really like, where the chapter's almost already dead. They lost all their gene seed. They're on the way out. This is their last hurrah. Their leader would be all in white, kind of like King Baldwin there.
Yeah.
And then maybe have like a cool faceplate or something. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, like maybe he came in contact with a Hrud. You know, that sometimes happens and turns Space Marines into cripples.
Occasionally.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we got time for calling. Might as well fucking wing-a-ling it. We got Grim on the line. Hey, give me a nod if you're ready. Welcome. Did you just crack open a brewski, or was that for your paint to dip into?
Just a little bit of Fireball.
Just a little Fireball, nice.
I figured,
a little for him, a little on his paintbrush.
Jordan's not here, so just a simple whiskey and Warhammer.
This one's for Jordan, and when you're done, I'll pour some into my battery tanks and give them a little shot up too.
Well, it looks like Christian's drinking the battery acid tonight, so I think he's the one.
Oh man, yeah, Christian, you have a Monster Energy drink problem, eh?
I have a lot of problems, man. That's the least
shit. You're right.
That's how I
mean to point it out to you like that, but
and that's why we all play Warhammer, to solve our problems.
Man, is it working for any of you guys?
No.
Okay, keep digging and buying.
So we were talking about Knights of Jerusalem. Just so chance I happen to be working on a Knights of Jerusalem little Helldrake here for us.
Yeah,
definitely the right color game.
That's a Chaos Helldrake, though.
Wait, what? So no. It's a Jerusalem Helldrake on the box.
I do recall those biblical dragons in the Book of Job and stuff, and so it's all canon. It's all coming together if we really lie to ourselves.
It's all canon. Everything's canon.
Yeah. I seen your Chaos Sorcerer, your Chaos Lord there the other day, and man, I bought like 6 of those bad boys for the Liber Malleus, and you inspired me. Like, you can really make that model unique.
You know what? You definitely can. There is a fair amount of stuff inside the box that allows you to kind of play with things. For the longest time, I hadn't ever actually converted models, but because I knew I was doing this for a specific purpose, I ended up picking myself up an Exalted Sorcerer box, and I chopped up a couple bits. I just had to have it look like that Thousand Suns, or Christian may argue Knights of Jerusalem box.
Knights of Terror, sir.
Oh, sorry. My mistake. But yeah, you can definitely really alter it how you want it to, because when I had went to the game store, it wasn't a GW. Fuck GW. I go to the local game shops.
They still get your money at the end of it, though, right?
No. La la. But I was looking for the Chaos Sorcerer, and I had asked the clerk, I saw that he had one on their shelf, but I can't seem to find it, not knowing that it had the Chaos Terminator Lord. But I guess you can convert the model to make it the Sorcerer. And I was like, oh, yes. Son of a bitch. So I mean, it does have a fair amount of stuff on it. It does have 2 or 3 tomes that you can add to him. As well as a couple different weapon variants. We were talking about the combi bolters, so there's a couple different ones there.
I like the tomes because I want to put a bunch of tomes all over the Liber Malleus guys for sure. So I'm like, okay, just alone for the tomes, I'm in it. And then once I got a couple, I can green stuff mold my own. But
exactly, just make yourself a negative print and just scratch that fucking thing.
You ever see Blue Tack before? Or Blue Buddy, maybe it's called.
I have right here.
Oh, fucking tight, man. Yeah, that stuff's the best.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's basically like green stuff, but so it's formable, and then when you make it, it hardens, and then when you want to remake it, you can heat it with hot water, and it becomes like flexible and jelly again. So then you can reuse it multiple times.
I don't know the name of this stuff, but like it's the opposite. You actually put it in an oven once you have your shape, and it's like you put it in for like 165, 185, somewhere in there, and you let it bake for about like 5-10 minutes. It's like almost like clay or plasticine or like even questionably porcelain. Like people like if you have B out there, she can do that ghost thing for you. You can make some tomes.
Yeah, no, we'll get after it for sure. So I got a question here from a text message from Christian. He asks, I have 3 models that are snap fit with slightly different variants of the regular box of Jump Marines. Yes, we're still on Jump Marines months later. Their weapons are technically the same. They just look slightly different. How do I justify? Yes, he uses the word justify as if he has to justify this to somebody. How can I justify having 3 guys with slightly modded but the same gun? Grim, what would you offer a poor boy for advice?
Man, rule of cool. Whatever the fuck you want to put on it, man, you make it look good. I come from.
Why does it look different, though? That's the question.
It's like carving something inside the stock, like a wooden stock. You carve your own name inside of it. I get it. You have a couple different other things, from a military background like you are. For you to stick, a different scope, a different grip, little things like that. Don't get me wrong.
No. That is against the rigidity of the Codex Astartes that we so firmly believe in and talked about. None of this fluid Primaris stuff. Wait.
Fuck the Codex Astartes. Sorry, Rambo, but fuck the Codex Astartes.
I should have just done Space Wolves, and then I could do whatever I want with them, and it wouldn't be an issue.
And no one has anything to argue. No successor chapters. You can just do whatever the fuck you want. We don't have Psychers. We have Rune Priest. It's the same but different. Equal but different.
For context too, those are those stupid Inceptors. If anyone remembers getting the main when they first dropped, they still rock the heavy bolter pistol, whatever you call them, that they use. But the shields, so it's the same gun, it just looks different. So why would 3 guys have a gun that looks different than the other 9 guys? That's like, it's the same gun. It's not like it's super modified where you're adding like extra attachments to the weapon. They have the same shield, the little shield that comes on the front of it. But they look different.
So with the ones with the shield, just think of it like, they were mid-combat. They're supporting fucking Imperial Guardsmen. They happen to see this, bye Mark. They happen to see this Imperial regiment running a heavy bolter. They might as well just pick this fucking bad boy up because they have that like kind of combat shield, or at least like blocking shield.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a little bit more of a snub nose, so
I was gonna say it's too small for that.
Well, like it doesn't look battle damaged, but you just gotta think of it just like buddy smashing that. It's like a
battlefield modification. Yeah,
sawed-off shotgun barrel, like no different. Well, a little bit different, other than you're shooting like rapid fire rocket projectiles. Quite a bit different.
Quite a bit different. Yeah.
I mean, at least they don't have that slam fire. It's just like open fire. Pop, 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 pop. Good to go, baby.
But okay, so why 3 and not the rest of the squad? Like, why are 3 of them singled out like this? What I was gonna do is they were gonna be either like the captain and maybe like the 2 lieutenants, or make it a rank thing. Maybe sergeants carry this variant of it. But
so personally, like I haven't bought any new Marines in a long time. I've had boxes of just like potential projects coming through, and hearing all this Primaris stuff.
It's putting you
turns
off.
my fucking stomach, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad that it's there because it's bringing new life into our community, but I fucking hate it. Now, even with the concept of, like exactly how you had said, you allow, um, some sort of ranking system within your own format of how you do your particular army. That's nice because, like, I know, like, I'm a very much tabletop player, but like when I'm trying to pull models off and I get to select who comes off, whether it be um like someone kills them and I get to pull them
Yeah.
versus a sniper shooting them and they get to pull them. I want to be able to be like, oh, that guy and that guy, and not have to accidentally be like, oh, a turn later, like, fuck, I pulled off my sergeant because I'm a dumbass.
Yeah. And that's fair. But you know what? That's it. That's the freedom that I have is I don't play tabletop. So I do whatever I want with my guys. I put weapons on them that they would never be able to take. And I give myself a little more creative freedom. But that is actually a good point for people who do model or who do play more, to make differentiation between their guys for exactly that reason, for gameplay purposes, where you can more easily identify from your overhead view who you're pulling first, or where you want to position your guys.
And for that reason alone, that's the only way how I can actually merit why they do it in such a way. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure that there's some underlying bullshit bureaucratic way that Games Workshop decided that they wanted to have it that way. But it also doesn't help when they don't provide somewhat of a backstory why, like you said, these three guys have the special